Welcome to part one of my case analysis breakdown, where I'm explaining how my professor made us have an assignment a couple weeks ago where we had to act as if we didn't know who committed a crime. It was based on any serial killer ever you could choose from. I chose Ed Kemper and his evidence, and the reason why we can't know who committed the crime before is because we're literally building a criminal profile. Therefore, we already had to use someone who has an abundance of evidence so that we can piggyback off of that and then link the case to said offender. In this case again, Big Ed. No, not the Big Ed from TLC. Everybody always thinks that. I'm talking about Ed Kemper. Let's get into it. Behavioral criminology is analyzing crime through behavior and patterns. When you get the initial evidence, the first thing that you're going to want to start looking at is victimology. Victimology is a study of the victims in the case. What was similar about them? What would make an offender choose them specifically? Is it their height? Is it their eye color? Is it their gender? Is it what they believe in? Who they are, their lifestyle, where they may have been targeted? There's a variety of different things, but typically there's going to be similarities or differences that will tell you things too about the victims. And with the evidence that I was receiving from this case, a lot of the people were last seen hitchhiking on the side of Route 1 in California. So suspicious already because they're by themselves hitchhiking. This is the year 1972 to 1973. Hitchhiking was extremely popular then. So looking at this already, knowing that they were hitchhiking, I'm going to assume already as the investigator that they were voluntarily getting into this vehicle or being sweet talked in the vehicle. Did they have a pew pew to them and were forced into the vehicle? We have to start thinking of things like this. In this case, there were 8 confirmed female victims and 1 missing victim out of that 8. Now, the 1 missing victim, Anita Luchessa, was with another woman at the time of her disappearance. So we're going to assume right now with this case that they went missing together. They were both murdered together, and we just haven't found her body yet. 6 of them were young hitchhikers, to where the other 2 were grown women. And I actually can't get into that yet. We're going to have to keep that for a different part. So just looking at victimology alone, we can see that the victims were randomly targeted. They were still targeted, but it was hitchhikers specifically. They were by themselves, they were vulnerable, and he had access to take the opportunity. These victims would be considered moderate to high risk due to hitchhiking alone. You're getting in a vehicle with someone you don't know. You're putting yourself in a different situation. This is not victim blaming, okay? Don't come on my page and start thinking that we're victim blaming. This is victimology. Most victims were found dismembered, decapitated, and scattered around various areas outside. When investigators found the bodies as well, they started noticing that there was different modalities of murder. It started with strangulation, and then as there was more bodies being found, people were being stabbed, people were being shot. So the murderer is displaying something called behavioral flexibility. He or she is adapting to more than just one method. It's escalating. Multiple methods of murder and prolonged interaction suggest control over the victim, extended contact, and possible escalation. This is where the bread and butter comes for forensic psychology. Behavioral signature. Behavioral signature is something that goes above and beyond the crime, and it's not needed for the modality of murder. Meaning, this random person who committed these crimes is not only murdering women, but he or she is also going above and beyond to decapitate and dismember. That's called a behavioral signature. It's tied to psychological needs, so there's a need for the perpetrator to do this for whatever reason it may be. Now, we don't know if the dismemberment happened pre or post-mortem, meaning before or after death. But in situations such as this, most of the time, I think it'd be really hard to grab your arm and gut it off. So it's most likely going to be something that happened post-mortem. You have to remember as well that with behavioral signatures, they're doing this as a way to remember the crime. It's kind of like taking a mental token. We hear sometimes of serial killers taking like objects or items from different victims so that they could have it like as a keepsake of like, oh, I just want to remember this moment forever. Doing the dismemberment and scattering the remains all over for each victim, essentially they get to relive the crime over and over. Now, going back to the different ways of murder, this means that the MO has changed, modus operandi. Modus operandi does not mean the motive of why someone's committing a crime. It means how they did the crime. He or she got in a vehicle and was picking up hitchhikers. He or she had a weapon of choice or hands. So the MO can change, which obviously in this case it did. A behavioral signature is most likely not going to change. It's the signature of each crime. So now that you learned about the victimology, the crime scene evidence, the patterns across the cases, and the MO and the signature, we're going to use this information to start forming behavioral conclusions. So even before identifying a subject, you already know at this stage that the offender targets vulnerable individuals. They gain control without immediate force, most likely smooth talking, charisma, oh, I'll help you, being nice guy, whatever. Shows behavioral flexibility in murdering and demonstrates consistent post-mortem possible signature behavior. I wish I could show you guys the paper right now. I can't until my professor approves me actually distributing this paper. I have to change a couple things on it, like her name and blah, blah, blah. I haven't asked her yet. She hasn't even graded it. Once she grades it, I'll be able to actually show you guys the paper with my next parts. And if I'm not able to for this series, check it out on my Substack. I'll let you guys know if she approves it or not. Stay tuned for part 2 tomorrow.